The town of Ashwick was a forgotten relic, tucked away in a valley surrounded by jagged cliffs and dense, suffocating forests. The townsfolk were a superstitious lot, their lives governed by rituals and traditions that seemed to belong to another century. They spoke in hushed tones about the old stone church that loomed at the edge of town, its spire piercing the sky like a jagged tooth. No one went near the church anymore. Clara didn't understand why. She was an anthropologist, drawn to Ashwick by rumors of its strange customs and folklore. The church, with its crumbling stone walls and stained glass windows, fascinated her. It was a piece of history, a mystery waiting to be unraveled. The townsfolk warned her to stay away. "It's cursed," they said, their voices trembling. "Bad things happen to those who go inside." But Clara didn't believe in curses. The first night she spent in the church, she heard the singing. It was faint at first, a haunting melody that seemed to drift through the walls. The voice was beautiful, ethereal, but there was something wrong with it. The notes were too sharp, the rhythm too erratic. It sent a shiver down Clara's spine. She told herself it was just the wind, whistling through the cracks in the stone. But as the days passed, the singing grew louder, more insistent. It seemed to come from beneath the church, a deep, resonant hum that vibrated in her bones. She tried to ignore it, focusing on her work. She documented the church's architecture, its faded frescoes, its crumbling altar. But the singing followed her, echoing in her mind even when she left the church. One night, she woke to the sound of scratching. It was coming from beneath the floorboards. She sat up, her heart pounding, and listened. The scratching grew louder, more frantic, as if something was trying to claw its way out. She grabbed a flashlight and knelt on the cold stone floor, pressing her ear to the ground. The singing stopped. For a moment, there was silence. Then, a voice, clear and cold, spoke directly into her ear. "We're here." Asterisk. She stumbled back, dropping the flashlight. The beam of light flickered across the floor, and for a split second, she thought she saw something move beneath the stones, like shadows writhing in the darkness. The next morning, she asked the townsfolk about the church's history. They refused to speak of it. But one old woman, her face lined with age and fear, pulled Clara aside. "Leave this place," she whispered, her voice trembling. "The church, it's not what you think. There's something beneath it. Something ancient. Something hungry." Clara pressed her for more information, but the woman shook her head and walked away. That night, Clara returned to the church, determined to uncover its secrets. She started in the crypt. The air was thick with the smell of damp earth and decay. The walls were lined with ancient tombs, their inscriptions worn away by time. Clara shone her flashlight into the darkness, her heart pounding in her chest. That's when she found the hole. It was hidden beneath one of the tombs, a narrow passage leading down into the earth. The singing was louder here, the melody twisting and warping into something unrecognizable. Clara hesitated, her instinct screaming at her to turn back. But she couldn't. She had to know. She climbed down into the hole. The passage was narrow and claustrophobic, the walls slick with moisture. The air grew colder the deeper she went, the singing louder and more distorted. And then, she reached the chamber. It was vast, its walls lined with bones. The floor was covered in a thick, black sludge that seemed to pulse and writhe like a living thing. In the center of the chamber stood a figure, its back turned to her. It was tall and thin, its skin pale and translucent. Its hair was long and matted, its fingers claw-like and twisted. It turned to face her, and Clara's blood turned to ice. Its face was a grotesque mask, its mouth stretched into a wide, unnatural grin. Its eyes were black voids, filled with a hunger that made Clara's stomach churn. The singing stopped. The figure tilted its head, studying her with those empty eyes. "You shouldn't have come here," it said, its voice a low, guttural growl. Clara tried to run, but the sludge on the floor clung to her feet, pulling her down. The figure moved toward her, its movements jerky and unnatural. The last thing Clara saw was the chamber closing in around her, the walls swallowing her whole. The church still stands at the edge of Ashwick, silent and empty. But if you listen closely, you can hear the singing. And if you're foolish enough to go inside, you might just find yourself part of it.